Hey everyone, welcome back to the shop. Let's get back to work on the Fokker D.VII. Now before I begin, the special glue I was waiting for that was supposed to take the next day to get to my house took a week. There it is. That's that tester's glue. Just wanted to make sure that I had this to put together the Spandaus, the two machine guns. So that will be getting taken care of, I think, off camera. I still got to figure out how to put the thing together because, like I said, the instructions were miserable. So I'm going to blow those up just so it's going to make it easier for me to read. And I've got flies everywhere inside because it's hot outside and the AC's on here in the basement. So let me take you outside and show you where we're at with the plane, with the fuselage, how far, how close we are to start that covering. All right, now hopefully it's not going to get too windy. As you can see, there's clouds building and we got some storms coming in, so I'm just kind of taking you guys out here to show you and then get everything broken down. Okay, fuselage ready to cover, wings ready to cover, all the little tail section tidbits ready to cover. Pretty much everything out here is ready to go. I've got multiple coats, multiple sand jobs. The wings were completed this morning and the fuselage just got done. So what we're doing on this video, we're going to start covering. It's not going to be today, guys, because like I said, I got to break everything down. And what we'll do is we'll come in and do what I normally do. I'll start with the control surfaces first. So we'll start on the tail. We got the two elevator halves. We got the rudder. That'll get taken care of. Then we'll jump on over to the ailerons. And the ailerons all nice and prettied up, ready to rock. The other one's somewhere back in here. There it is. There's the ailerons. We do have, we're going to call it the bottom wing. That one with the end caps is ready to go. This is ready to go ahead and get primered up and painted. So our little motor, whatever you want to call it, the fake motor that's going to sit up on the nose, that's ready to be taken care of because there's no covering on that. It's all paint. We've got the landing gear is ready to go. The two cabane struts ready to go, and the rear wing struts and the cowling. So everything is finally ready to cover. And yes, it's been almost a year in the making just to get to the point where we're at right now. So let me go ahead, get that shop all cleaned up because with the heat and the stuff coming in this weekend, it's going to all be getting done indoors. So let's go ahead and let me get everything cleaned up and I'll bring it back when we're ready to start covering. You knew I was going to have to do it. We got to make sure that these scissors are sharp. So I went ahead, got it straightened up. I'm just doing a little polishing on it right now. And let's give them a test. Because this material doesn't like to be cut by scissors. So they have to be very sharp. Let's see how well it is and see if I can get you a good indication of what it's going to look like from the top down. So that's nice that way. Now let's go ahead and try to zip it this way. All right, let's hope for the best. 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and just zip it straight down. And there we go. That's called sharp scissors. You got to have them that sharp just to go ahead and cut right through. And even though it's kind of at a curved at an angle, it is a very sharp cut. So once again, make sure your scissors are sharp. Now let me go ahead and show you the arsenal. All right, the sharpening stone and the scissors that are very sharp. All right, now what we're jumping into here is everything that I'm going to need chemical wise through this section where I'm putting the fabric, and this is just some old fabric and it's never going to be used again, so I just use that as test pieces just to make sure that everything's taken care of. Now, acetone, just a simple cleaner. Don't always use it, but it's always out with me, just in case I need to jump into it real quick. All right, the next one, methyl ethyl ketone. Bad stuff, dangerous stuff. Watch yourself when you're using it. And it's set for thin specialty coatings, which is Polytac. I'm not thinning it out. I'm going to try to go with it just the way it is. It's brand new, so I don't think I'm going to have to thin that at all. Now what I apply this with is the little acid brushes. And just to kind of give you an idea how many of these things I keep here in my inventory. I bought these things, I don't know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Box of 100. I still have that many left. So what I do is when I get ready to start covering, I used to use 2 or 3 of them. Now every time I just cut 5. And the reason why is because with the Polytac, it's got a shorter setup time. So what you do is you go ahead, you dip into this one, you put your little strip down, because you'll see how we're going to do this together, because when I do the first covering, which is going to be the lower wing, I'm going to show you exactly how it's done. And what you have to have with the Polytac to just go ahead and throw these things in when they start getting a little bit gummed up, MEK. So I have some MEK in here. It's just a matter of just dropping it inside there and just swishing it around, and then you can take it out and let it dry, or you can just leave it in there and eventually just jump back into the Polytac, because this is what you use if you have to thin this. So they're compatible. Then we go over to the old lacquer thinner and the non-tautening nitrate dope. And this is some fresh dope already mixed up. So it's cut at a 50-50 ratio, 50% nitrate dope, 50% lacquer thinner, and this is just about empty. So I got to get more of these, and I have to go run up to Genoa City, Wisconsin, see a buddy of mine, Gino. And this is a little teeny, I don't even know what kind of brush it is. It's almost like a poly brush. Don't even know where the heck I got them from. Probably got them from Amazon. And this is what I use for the nitrate dope on the fabric. Now what we'll do on the fabric is the first 2 coats will be just to go ahead and bond the fabric to the wood, because the first coat you're going to go through tons of it on the first coat, because it's going to suck through the fabric right into the wood, and that's going to start to stick the wood down. The second coat will start to go ahead and not only just get more dope into the fabric to just go ahead and lock it into place, which of course is after you heat shrink it. And then you can use this as a filler, which is talcum powder. Of course I got the old monkey butt, and there's a long story behind the monkey butt. If you want to see it, go watch back to, I think it was one of the ones when I was getting ready to cover the Taylorcraft, the big orange monster. So go ahead and watch that one if you want to hear that backstory. Or, even though I did leave it upstairs, I'm going to use cornstarch this time. Cornstarch works very nicely, and it's a little bit heavier than the talcum powder, but I think this was the issue I was having with the newer forms of paint. And the very last plane that I did, which was the stomp, I did not use this, I used cornstarch. And the pièce de résistance, the aluminum paste. You don't use much of this stuff. I mean, I got this stuff from Wag Arrow, I don't know how many years ago, and it's still almost full. So if friends of mine need it, they know where to come get it from, because you use very little. This will be put in the nitrate dope on probably the last 2 coats that I put on there, with the filler still in it. And what this does is, the aluminum paste is exactly what they used it for in the past, was to keep UV rays out from starting to break down fabric. I don't use it for that. I use it to go ahead and block color coming through. So if I wanted to, I can put this on the outside, and then when I paint it, it acts like a primer. On the last plane, I did not use this, and I may not use it on this either. I may just go ahead and just shoot primer. Just have not made that decision yet. So we'll be crossing this bridge when we come to it. One thing I forgot to show you was this. That's what we're going to cover it with. It's just SIG coverall, and I do have more than enough to go ahead and get this plane covered, because the biplanes, you got 2 wings, and this one 2 and a little wing. So what I'm going to start that with is, I still have a whole bunch of leftover from the last covering of the stomp. So this will I'll be using this on most of the control surfaces just to get started, because I don't need big pieces. So there. All right, now first thing we need to do is cut out a piece of fabric that is going to work out nicely. And this has 2 directions on it. So it moves nicely in this direction, and if you had to move it in this direction, it's a little bit stiffer. Well, we're putting this on, it does not matter on grain, because people want a certain fabric grain to it. For this little stuff, it really does not matter. So we're going to go ahead, lay it down on the top, and we're going to cut out a little bit bigger piece than we need. And that's that cut I was talking about. All right, now, because you're always going to start with the bottom first, because you're going to go ahead, lap it, put it over this side, and then lap over the top of it in the other direction. So we know that we've got more than enough, because it's easier to cut stuff off than add stuff on. So what we're going to do is come on in with the polytack. And this stuff, you don't want to you can let it dry and hit it with an iron, or you can just go ahead, put it on, run it, pull it through the weave, and then as soon as that stuff sets up, it's not going to go anywhere. So let's go ahead and do it that way. Alright, so that's sitting like that. I'll just go ahead and pull this over the top. And just go ahead and just smear it through with your finger, because you're going to get this stuff on your hands, so just get used to it. Let's pull this taut and go ahead and run it down. Alright, so this piece is just pretty much tacked into position at the moment. And I could have done a little bit better job. It bled through here a little bit here, but it will tack up. Now if I want, because I would come over the top of this, if I want to do it, and I'll probably do it just to show you how you can do it another way as well. I'll come over with some nitrate dope, just put some nitrate dope on it, let it flow on in, and it'll bond to everything, because right now it's starting to bleed up through in this area like it was on the other one. So right now this stuff should be holding this piece, so it's stuck. Alright, and then the next thing will be to come on and pull it down, and let's work on the rear side of it. And what I'll do is I'll come down, I'll put pretty much some polytack on the trailing edge of this, maybe an 1/8 inch in, because this is going to go ahead and then be brought up onto the top of this. So I'll bring this up and then cut it and then just trim it so it's flush. Talk amongst yourselves. Alright, and that's on. So let's go ahead. We're going to start in the middle. We're going to work our way out. So let me pull it down tight here in the middle. And we'll go ahead and we'll keep working our way out to the outside. And this stuff does shrink. It can shrink pretty good, and if you remember what I told you earlier in one of the videos, you can tighten this stuff up so tight it'll just crush this balsa. Okay, bottom piece is done. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come down and we're going to do the same thing with each edge. We're going to come in, we're going to tack it down here and do the same thing on the other side. I'll bring you right back. Alright, so this is all attached, so it's all glued on the bottom, and you can see all the wrinkles in it still. That'll all get pulled out when we go ahead and heat this up. So what I'm going to do is come on in, I'm going to come on this side of it, and I'll use some nitrate dope, kind of plaster it down. I'm going to come in with a razor knife and just cut a straight line, very lightly, not deep, because you just want to remove this edge. So I want to do that preferably on the leading edge, and on the trailing edge, the side. Now on the sides, because this fabric, you can work with compound curves, I can just go ahead, continue pulling this thing up around the corner. You see it follows that curve. So this will come up, this will get glued down on this side, do the same thing on the other side, and cut it off even with the top, or even if I want to come in with the razor knife, just cut it, you know, an 1/8 inch down, because I'm going to drop the top over onto the side as well. All right, so let's go ahead. We're going to get this pulled down over the top, such as that. And we're going to come the other way as well. First time you do this, you might get slightly aggravated with it. If you know somebody that's done it before, just give them a phone call, because it's, once you learn how to do it, it's a very easy way to cover, and especially when it comes down to you're trying to do something a little closer to scale than just throwing some plastic on. This is the way to go. All right, so this is just going to sit here for probably about 10 minutes. Tack up all the way. I'll come in and I'll just do a razor cut and I'll bring you right back. All right, it is cut. Now we're ready to go ahead and let's start tacking up the sides. And the way you can do this one, if you want to do it, I'll do probably, I can either do one side or I could do both sides. I'll make the decision here coming up real quick. You can do it with just, well, you could do it with Polytack, or if you want to, you can do it just with nitrate dope, where you're just going to go ahead and use that to glue it down, and when you shrink it, it's still going to shrink. So let's just go ahead and let's just say we're going to do it with Polytack on one side and then nitrate dope on the other. Okay, this side, it's not completely dry, still wet. That's the nitrate dope. That was put on first probably about 1.5 minutes ago. We came over, this has Polytack on it. You can see where the Polytack comes up on this side, so this is already glued into place. All I gotta do is come in with the nitrate dope, and let's go ahead and fill that in and glue this down. So this edge will be done. And then when you go ahead and do it where you put a nitrate dope on, just go a little bit farther past the edge. When you come in with a razor knife to cut this off, it cuts it straight as an arrow. Okay, step 1, 2, 3, that's done. Let's go ahead, let's trim off the top, because we don't need any more up here on the top, because we're already done on the leading edge, and on the sides it's just going to be the trailing edge. So we'll come over with a razor knife, I'll cut up around, let me get it down lower, so I'll come around here, zip it right along that side, do the same on this side, and then we'll just go ahead and get the tail tucked in. Okay, the sides are all done, everything is properly trimmed across. Now with the trailing edge, I'm going to go ahead and pull down on it while I'm putting nitrate dope on it, hold it for a few seconds, move down to the next station, do it the same way down there. That way we're kind of pretty much pulling it up over the edge, and then that will be my trim edge. On the top of that, I'll do it the same way. I'll just come in with a real razor knife or razor blade, and I just go ahead and trim that so it's all the way tucked up to the very top of that thing, and I don't need to go over the top because we'll be wrapping down under the bottom when we put the top on. Okay, this is glued on, the rear part. Let me come on in with a little razor knife. See how well I can cut this one and tuck at the same time. And you're going to have a whole lot of these blades, because this fabric dulls these things very quickly. That was not a good cut in that little area. Let's cut it in the other direction. Alright, that is all cut off. So now we're just going to go ahead and we're going to, I could shrink this side down, but I'm not going to do that yet. I'm going to go ahead, I will lay the top covering down, and since you saw how I did the bottom, you'll understand how I did the top. I'll get the top all covered up, and then I'll bring it back when it comes time to shrink it.